My name is Allana Calvano, and I am a sophomore at the University of Oklahoma, majoring in Industrial and Systems Engineering. I am also a HERE scholar working at the Systems Realization Laboratory at OU with Linguo, Farrokh Mistree, and Jenny K. Allen. Today, I'll be presenting a project on how to promote Agriculture 4.0 in India. Although India is ranked as one of the top 20 economies of the world, around 40% of its population lives under the poverty line, and only a few have access to the credit from the formal financial sector. From that number, 75% live in rural communities, where the primary resources and governmental assistance are insufficient. In response to that, many microcredit institutions, such as the Grameen Bank, came out in the 1970s to provide microloans to rural entrepreneurs. However, its business model cannot be reproduced everywhere or by other institutions. Given that situation, we aim to create a business model that accounts for different villages and adapts to each culture. We also want to evaluate how much does a microloan contribute to each villager's economic status. Our methodology consists of a combination of process-driven procedures and data-driven procedures as a way of developing a process of training a business model given different types of data from different places using Excel. As a result, we standardize the process to quantify villagers' payment ability, creating a system that supports Agriculture 4.0 in India. It is no doubt that the microcredit institutions are extremely beneficial for the country in both financial and social terms. They not only improve India's overall economic standards, but they also help improving people's lives. However, an organization like this has its negative sides as well. First, it is hard to maintain and control it. For the institution to be successful and have high recovery rates, it requires a skilled staff and various social programs and workshops, teaching the rural communities about how the bank operates and how to invest and use their loans, about government assistance, and better farming practices. Besides that, it is expensive to maintain a microcredit institution since it requires a lot of external funding and investment on social programs and on microgrid. Therefore, the gaps analyzed for the implementation of such a model is the lack of knowledge from villagers about government subsidies and better farming options, the lack of inclusion to the formal banking sector and the lack of knowledge about how it operates, the need of technology advancement in the small communities, and the lack of access to the internet and thus to a larger market. In this sense, the scope of our research and the main questions we want to answer are: how to evaluate whether a villager has payment ability, how will the microloans be distributed in terms of frequency and amount, and how to evaluate how much does the microloan contribute to improve each villager's economic status. One of the most successful examples of a microcredit institution is the Grameen Bank. The Grameen Bank was the first organization in the world to provide microloans to impoverished villagers in a developing country. It was founded by Professor Muhammad Yunus in 1976 with the goal of diminishing poverty in India. One of the main characteristics of the Grameen Bank is its highly decentralized organizational structure, which gives power to field workers who are in closer contact to the rural communities to make decisions on the loan distribution. The Grameen Bank helps over 3 million members, and its recovery rates are as high as 99.69%. Although the Grameen Bank has revolutionized the traditional banking concept, their business model is hard to be reproduced everywhere or by other institutions. This happens because the model works well when applied in a small scale, but when it is applied in a large scale, it becomes harder to maintain and control it. In this sense, the proposed method accounts for the multiple lifestyles and cultures among different small villages in India, giving emphasis on a more personal and subjective evaluation and assistance of the possible members. The data used to create the model was obtained from a small set of villagers from the following communities in India: Maudiguda, Rangalpadu, and Kantashal. The first question to be analyzed is how to evaluate whether a villager has payment ability. First, we need to analyze both the quantitative and qualitative data we have and focus on the most important aspects that can predict if the person or group can pay the loan back. From the data we have, we selected as the main aspects the final harvest date, the total farmland, the total yield, the cost of irrigation, the cost of fertilizer used per crop, and the farmer's labor costs, since they all affect the production costs and the final profits. The predicted payment ability is therefore a function involving all these variables. Then we tested it on an annual basis, evaluating if all year farming would be sufficient for financial stability, which also includes the education expenditure for all children in the family, thus creating a max payment ability. Our main goal is to train the predictive model, since it is more useful for future reference than the specific model, and then use the max payment ability to test it. However, it is important to note that training the predictive model using qualitative data is extremely hard because the data have a higher degree of randomness. The second question to be analyzed is on how will the microloans be distributed in terms of frequency and amount. After evaluating the predictive payment ability function and training the predictive model, we concluded that for a farming loan, the annual farming is sufficient for financial stability if the date sown is close to the loan cycle, the harvest date is close to the repayment cycle. For a family business loan, if not sufficient, the harvest date will match the loan cycle and the date sown will match the repayment cycle. For example, farmer number one would be eligible to receive a microloan since, according to the predictive model equation, he has high chances of becoming successful in his business and thus paying back his loan. This happens because his farming business is consistent as he cultivates crops the entire year. Also, his total yield and total farmland, shown in the previous slides, are an indicator that the business has high chances of generating enough capital for the farmer to pay back his loan and generate profits that can be partially destined to invest in the business and make it grow even more. However, farmer number two would not be eligible to receive a loan. As it seems, farmer number two is a seasonal farming, since he only farms during some periods of time in a year. Because his business is inconsistent and it is mostly for domestic purposes, there is little chance the business will grow enough to generate him enough capital to pay the loan back and still have some profit. Regarding the following cases, most of the farmers would be eligible to receive a microloan. The last question we want to answer is on how to evaluate how much does a microloan contribute to improve each villager's economic status. Because there is not a formula that can predict for sure a subjective question, we use data-driven synthetic generation and cross-validation to answer this question. In other words, a combination of process-driven procedures and data-driven procedures is used as a way of evaluating if the rural business are successful and if each villager was able to pay back their loans. We assume that if a business was successful, it generated enough capital for the farmer to pay back his loan and still have some profit that could be partially invested in the business and partially for him and his family. This profit is an indicator that an improvement happened to the villager's economic status. It is important to make clear that our aim is not to enumerate all methods and select the most appropriate one for each single problem, but to make decision guidance of customizing the data curation procedures for different problems. As closing remarks, I would like to share the skills I have acquired from this research project. First, I learned how to deep read, which is more than just reading the content. It also comprises actively reading it, which involves observing the information and thinking and reflecting upon it. This was an important step to analyze the gaps in the literature and come up with the scope of my research. Second, I learned how to be systematic and the importance of having the information connected in a methodical and logical line of thought. Finally, I learned how to prioritize and how it is essential to know what subjects I should focus more and study deeply and which ones it was okay to know in a superficial level. This way, I managed to organize my time in a more efficient way, not only for the research, but also in my daily life. I would like to end this presentation thanking the HERE community and especially Professors Farrokh, Mistree, and Jenny K. Allen, and my mentor, Lynn Wolf, for all the help on this project. Thank you very much.